It's December, it's cold, it's getting Christmassy. Seems like the perfect time to just talk about horror. Hey, how's it going? Thanks to everyone who watched my last video. Thanks for coming back and watching this one if you come back to watch it again. I still don't really know what I'm trying to go for here, but I kind of just enjoy sitting here and talking about films. If you know me, you know that's what I do anyway. But yeah, cut to the chase. This time, I just want to get into how the last few years have kind of helped me get into more horror and discover new and different and weird kind of horrors. And it's for a few reasons really, which I'm going to go through kind of like bullet points. So we're just going to go through like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And yeah, I just want to go into like horror because this year was like a massive boom of horror for me, and it was just like that's all I wanted to watch, or that's all I wanted to like research and stuff like that. So without further ado, one of the first like big points, the reason I got into horror like lately was because of, yeah, if you know me, you know I really love A24 as a production company. I think their films are just above the rest. I think the level of detail and the like, it just takes its time to get to a good point, and it doesn't just rush it all for the sake of being a horror. If it's a horror film, you know it is, but it'll take its time to get there, and it's not just full of jump scares and like music that's gonna cause the feeling of, oh, I need to be scared here. They really take their time and they craft these amazing stories, but then they mix like some of the most horrific imagery I've ever seen in my life, and they combine them two to just make like such good films. So obviously I've put there Ari Aster and Robert Eggers as well, who are two of the best directors in my opinion working today, and have made my favorite films of the last few years, that being Hereditary, Midsummer, The Lighthouse, and The Witch. So I'm going to go through all of those individually because I think they all deserve just their own time to kind of go through. So if I'll start off with The Witch, because The Witch was one that I randomly picked up in a CEX because I was just, I look through CEX to find things I can just pad out my collection with. So I found The Witch and I picked it up, and I think it was like £1.50, and I'd heard good things about it. So I was like, okay, I'll give this a go. So we took it home, I put it in, and I watched the whole thing, and I was blown away because, again, it takes its time. All these films are slow burn films, and if you're not someone who can sit there and enjoy something slow, then these won't be the films for you. But if you can sit there and kind of chill out and just get your head into this story, then The Witch is one of those. It's fantastic from like everything. The costume design's amazing, the acting's amazing. Like, I love the era that it's set in. I just love everything about it. But like, you get to that last act, and it's such a different feeling to like a normal film. It's incredible, and I think it's really good. The Witch is fantastic, but it's not my favorite. Then I'll go over to what is arguably my favorite film of the last, I can't tell you how many years. It's my phone background, and I've got a smartwatch, and it's my smartwatch background as well, which is The Lighthouse. And not enough people have seen it. I find this film, it's just mind blowing because there's so much in it. Like, even if you research it, the director's got so many ideas about this one film. It's so interesting to know like what went into it, and I love it. There's a lot, like, obviously it's black and white and it's filmed at such an aspect ratio that it's like literally like a square, but the way it's been done is incredible. And if you just watch it, like you just put it on and watch it, then I think you're not really going to enjoy it. You really need to sit there and kind of focus and really get into like what's going on. Like, if you haven't seen it, it's about two people working a lighthouse. Essentially, that's pretty much what it is. And I don't want to say too much about it really because there's so much going on, and if you haven't seen it, like it's one of those films you really need to watch, because I wouldn't say The Lighthouse is a straight horror film, but it's freaky enough in its visuals and the tone that it is a horror film. But I wouldn't say, oh, if you're a horror fanatic, you need to watch The Lighthouse, because I don't think it's going to resonate with most horror viewers that are kind of like into slashers and stuff like that, because it's not that at all. It's a slow burn black and white film with really strange piratey dialogue and like sea shanties, and it's so odd, but it's amazing. It's so good, and it does a really good job of making you feel really claustrophobic and really like stranded, as if you're with them. If it's a film you haven't seen, then I really recommend you go out and buy it and watch it, because it's one of those films you just have to experience, whether you like it or whether you don't. It has to be experienced. The Lighthouse it's amazing. It's one of my favorites. I could literally bang on about it all day long. I love it, everything down to the music as well, and that final act is so disturbing in a sense that I couldn't believe what I was watching the first time I watched it. It's truly bonkers, honestly. And then we can move on to Ari Aster, which he made two of the weird, well, one horror movie that was more straightforward was Hereditary, and I know a lot of people who've seen Hereditary don't like it, and I can't figure that out. And that was the weirdest experience in the cinema for me, because I was watching Hereditary, and there was me, and then there was like a gap, 2 seats, and then there was someone else on that side, and they were like on their phone, and they were like bored, but then there was me sitting there sweating. I was like watching it like this because it was so, I don't know, it disturbed me to a level which I've never felt before, because it was a scene where like if you've seen it, you'll know the scene, but there's someone hiding up in a corner, and you just don't see them. And if you don't clock them, the movie doesn't point it out to you. It's like, if you've seen it, great. If you haven't, whatever. But like once you've clocked that, you can't unsee it. And then I was in my house late at night, like in bed, and I was just like watching the ceiling, making sure there was no one there. Obviously there wasn't, but like a film had never got under my skin so much like that in my life, and I was sweating. And it's such a disturbing film anyway, if you know anything about it. It's like about family loss and trauma and all this, that, and the other. But again, it's Toni Collette's performance in that film that really elevates it above like a lot of mainstream horrors, because she really brings that family drama dynamic to such a level where you just can't take your eyes off it, and everything she does is so captivating, and everyone in that film, you're just like, wow, what's good? Like, it's so dramatic and so emotional, but then when the scares start coming in, it truly is terrifying. And it's one of my it's arguably my scariest film ever, because it's not only the straightforward horror bits, it's the family drama and that dynamic that really like speaks to me. And I don't know, there's something so disturbing about Hereditary. Again, another one, if you haven't seen it, please watch it. That was the film I used in my intro because I just love it so much. I think I picked it up at Poundland for like £2, which was quite funny. And then Ari Aster's next film, which was, of course, Midsummer. And I know a lot of people have seen this one. When it came to Netflix, I know a lot of people who watched it, and they messaged me and they were like, what was the point in that? And I was like, you just got to chill out and kind of take it all in and watch it a few more times, because it's not everyone loves Midsummer, and I know it's technologically such a different film to Hereditary, but I think they're both so good. But Midsummer is like a longer and a lot more grand film, and there's a lot more going on, but it's another one of those films that the imagery and the acting is more disturbing than like your average horror film, because everyone's so committed, and I love that. Florence Pugh is so good in that film as well. Her the opening scene and stuff like that, where she's just bawling, I love it. It's so, that really like, that frightened me, because it's the screams and like the pain you can feel through her voice is really, it's so well done. And Midsummer as well. The thing with Midsummer is it's a beautiful film as well, because it is a horror film, but it's set in like broad daylight, and it's gorgeous, and it's set in Sweden, and it's all beautiful. But like the imagery and the visuals that happen later on is so disturbing. This film is really not for like the faint of heart. It's not one of those easy watch films. It's a really tough one. And if you've watched the director's cut, it's even better. I think it's 3 hours, the director's cut, but it makes it better for me. There's like a few scenes that are added in that weren't in the theatrical, and it really makes a whole lot of difference actually, so it's good. There's like an argument scene between the couple, and it adds like a whole nother layer to what comes up at the end, so it's good. But Midsummer, again, that is a really disturbing one, but I love it because A24 as a company just make these stunningly haunting films. I mentioned one in my last video, which was Saint Maud. That was fantastic, and honestly, I love A24. I just always want to know what they come out with next. And I know the next one that I can see is going to be Lamb, which I think is out today, which is the 11th of December. I'm pretty sure it releases today. So I'm going to try and see that within the week, because I think that's going to be truly fantastic. But yeah, I love them. Okay, next point of horror will be Halloween. Who doesn't love Halloween? I didn't. I never used to really like Halloween. When people used to say Halloween was like their favorite holiday and like their favorite time of year, I never really got it. I was like, it's just a day where people dress up and put decorations up. But this year, we kind of I really overdid it. I got a list. I think I mentioned this in my last video, where I got a list of like 80 horror films, and we Googled, rolled the dice them, and whatever number came up, we watched them. And that really opened my eyes to a lot of horror, because I put some really obscure, weird, older ones on there as well, so I was able to watch some strange horrors. And then obviously this year we got Halloween Kills, which I know I put in my mixed category of films, but the Halloween franchise as a whole is so good. I love them. I love slasher films, and I love the character of Michael Myers, because the whole silent like killer thing is, I love it so much. And Jamie Lee Curtis in that franchise is carrying it. She's incredible, and if it wasn't for her, it probably wouldn't be so good in my opinion, but she's fantastic. And Halloween, the original, will always be one of my favorite films, because the first time I saw that, I was able to see it in a cinema, because it was the release of Halloween 2018, and they did a double bill, because obviously Halloween 2018 is like a direct sequel to Halloween. So they did a double bill, and I was mind blown by just, it was 1970 something, but like it's the technological achievement in that film, because it's so simple, and the music and the acting like together alone is amazing. But it's the simple costume design for Michael Myers, it's just everything about it. The aesthetic's incredible, it's so simple, but it made the character so iconic. And then when Halloween 2018 came out, I thought they did a really good job captivating that feeling, because it was simple again. It was very simple, but there was a lot more going on, but they still kept it relatively simple, and they still had Michael Myers being a really scary character, and he was violent and he was brutal, and that's what I like about the character. And that's why Halloween Kills disappointed me so much, because they took out like the best elements of Halloween and kind of put them away, and they brought in the other elements that no one really had an interest for. And that's why that really disappointed me. There is an extended cut of Halloween Kills coming out, I think this week or next week, so I will be watching that. But that's why that disappointed me, because the simplicity of the Halloween franchise is what drives it to be one of the better horror films. So when they put too much in it and they start changing things too much, and then Michael Myers isn't even in Halloween Kills all that much, it just starts to feel like, well, what was the point in that? Because this is Halloween. This isn't, I can't even remember his name with the baseball bat. What was his name? I can't remember. But they just put too much in, and then they did that whole mob justice thing, and it was so stupid, and it just didn't add anything to the film. And then, yeah, that's what I mean. It was just disappointing. But if you want to watch the simplicity of the original Halloween, just watch the original and then watch the 2018, because I think they actually work really well together. I know a lot of people didn't love Halloween 2018, but I did. I thought it was great. I think they blended comedy and horror really well, and Michael was brutal as ever in that film. I thought he was fantastic. He was super brutal in Halloween Kills, don't get me wrong, but it was more a case of when he's there, he's brutal. But the film was too busy concentrating on mob justice and secondary characters no one cared about, and it was just silly. Like, hopefully the third one will be much better, but for now on, that is my weakest of the Halloween. I'm only including the old Halloween and the new ones, because the other ones got retconned, so there's no point in really talking about those ones. But the original Halloween really drove me to watch older horrors, because that simplicity but made it so good. Do you know what I mean? So third reason. So just picture this. I just watched all the Fear Streets on Netflix, and I really liked them. And I went on YouTube, and a recommendation for me was Kill Count, Fear Street Part 1, Dead Meat. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool. So I clicked it on, and then since that moment, and that was the first week that Fear Street released, I have been absolutely obsessed with the channel Dead Meat on YouTube. If you haven't seen them, like, I really do recommend them. This really good, and they're really good hosts, and they do, I'm sure Kill Count is pretty popular, if I'm honest, like between people I know as well. But if you haven't seen it, I really do recommend, because they are fantastic, and they don't only kill count like new films, they kill count really obscure films, really weird films, and that's why I like it. But they are fantastic, and I just binged their channel in like a few days. I just put videos on, and autoplay was just, playing the kill count, and I discovered so many different horrors through that, because I hadn't watched Friday the 13th, and that was such like a crime to me. But we hadn't watched it, and I watched the kill count for number 1 and 2, and I was like, I'm just going to stop watching the kill counts and watch the films. So I pretty much watched Friday the 13th due to Dead Meat's channel because I loved their coverage on it. And same with like Freddy, and same with they did all the Halloween franchise as well. They've done all of them. They've done really weird films as well. They've done like Krampus and stuff like that, which is good for the video. But the Dead Meat's channel, and they also do a podcast on Spotify. It's so good, and they covered films like The Lighthouse and The Witch and stuff like that too. So I love listening to people's opinions. And because these guys are horror fanatics, it's so cool to listen to, and they're not biased just because they love horror. They always point out flaws in films, or they'll point out like the best bits and stuff like that. But I like how they deep dive into like behind the scenes as well. It's not just kill count. They also deep dive into like how it was made, how costumes were made, like actors, directors, stuff like that. It's so interesting. So if you haven't seen them, I really recommend watching them, because that was a channel I am still obsessed with. They had a kill count out yesterday, and I've got the notification bell on for when they upload a video, and their podcast as well. I'll listen to it in the car. Like, I'll drive to work and I'll listen to one of their podcasts in the car, and it's just great. I absolutely love them. They are so good, and I know they like working on bigger things as well, which is really cool. And I can't wait for more. I'm always looking forward to their next release, because it might be a film I've never seen, and then I can go and watch that film because they've recommended it. And most of the films I've watched from them, like that they've recommended, I've really enjoyed, which is great. So they're a really good channel. Point 4, let's go to. Now, point 4 is probably the biggest reason I got into horror recently, and that was I discovered the band Ice Nine Kills. And I know a lot of people don't like them, which I think is bonkers, but this band honestly changed the way I see films and horrors in general. Because if you haven't heard Ice Nine Kills, I really do recommend just going on Spotify and listening to their top 5 songs, because I think people will just be hooked as soon as they hear them. Like, I don't understand how people don't like them, but the Silver Scream and Silver Scream 2 albums are based on horror films, and this is what really drove me to really want to watch more horrors. Was the Silver Scream. I'm gonna quickly look while I'm recording this. Nope, my Spotify is logged out. That's hilarious. But all the songs on Silver Scream 1 are to do with Friday the 13th, Halloween, Silent Night, Deadly Night, which is one I watched recently, which was absolutely glorious in the wrong ways, but it's so good. Jaws, they've got songs based on Scream, they've got The Crow, so all different types of horrors, and then they made Welcome to Horrorwood, the Silver Scream Part 2 this year, which is my personal favourite album of this year, but they did songs based on Child's Play, based on The Fly, Wrong Turn, American Psycho, which is my favourite film ever, Resident Evil. Like, they're so good, and their videos to go along with them are just even better, because they put so much detail in, and like the production value on these things are bonkers. And I'm so excited because I'm doing Download Festival finally for the first time in my life next year, and they are playing Download, so I can't wait to see them. But if there's someone I've got to like thank for really getting me into horror, it's Ice Nine Kills, because it was they don't just reference the films, they kind of recreate them in their own ways while really paying respect and homage to the originals. And it's so cool to hear and listen to, and like you'll say now their song Merry Xmas, which is Silent Night, Deadly Night. I listened to the song first, loved it, watched the films, then went back and listened to the song again, and then you kind of click onto all the little references and like all the little lines, and everything is so perfectly detailed and respected that I can't help but love them even more once I watch a film that I hadn't seen after listening to this song, because I'm like, okay, you really did respect it and you referenced it so perfectly that it's perfect. And their music alone is mind-blowing to me personally. I think they're incredible. I know not like, a lot of people either haven't heard of them or just don't feel the same, but I think they're fantastic, and like they are heavy, and the breakdowns in their music are just so good for me. And their new album, as I said, was album of the year for me, 100%. But I absolutely love them so much, like I really do. But moving off Ice Nine Kills real quickly, I'm just going to quickly go into probably what is my favourite horror franchise of all time as of time of recording. It changes quite often, but if I have to say one franchise that really sticks with me now, it's Child's Play. And I mean the whole franchise, because although they get stupid in the middle, they never, apart from Child's Play 3, they never feel boring. There's always something going on. There's always like new ideas injected. There's always relevant human stuff injected, which is cool. There's always like new things that are happening, and they're constantly making new stuff. And if you've caught up with all the Child's Play franchise and you've now watched the Chucky sci-fi series as well, you'll know like this series just made everything 10 times more intense, and they've really, really made the most out of this. How old is this franchise? 40-year franchise at this point, but it never feels like it's almost out of time. They've always got fresh ideas. Especially in the series, the way it ends on such a cliffhanger was fantastic. That series I was so worried about because it was 8 or 9 episodes, almost an hour each, and I was like, how are you going to make a 9-hour Chucky story? Like I couldn't wrap my head around it. But they did it perfectly, and no episode ever felt boring. They were all fantastic. Every episode, every actor. Chucky, what's his name? Brad Dourif coming back for Chucky was the icing on the cake because he still loves that character so much. You can hear it in his voice when he's playing Chucky. He loves it so much. To have his daughter Fiona Dourif back as Nika as well was such a good choice because she's amazing. The makeup choices, the character designs, like the use of animatronics instead of CGI was so perfect. I watched all of the Chucky franchise again this year, and I love them all for different reasons. Child's Play 3 being my least favourite only because it's boring, and all the other ones are not boring. They might be stupid. Seed of Chucky is one of like the worst films I've ever seen in my life, but it's never boring, so I was constantly entertained. So I'd put that above Child's Play 3 because Child's Play 3 was more generic and boring, where Seed of Chucky took some really weird choices and chances, and it might not have paid off on all of them, but some of them were legitimately funny or legitimately like kind of weird or a bit surprising. But I love this franchise, and I can't wait to see where they take it from now on, because I know they're doing a series 2 of the sci-fi series, which I'm so landed about because it was fantastic. And if you haven't seen it, I really do beg that you binge watch it because it's so good, and like they do so many different ideas, and I really, really recommend it. And my favorite of the film franchise would probably have to be the latest film, which was Cult of Chucky, because when I first watched it, I really didn't like it. I wasn't in that horror mindset of like really enjoying it. But then once I watched the whole franchise and I watched Cult of Chucky again, it went up to my favorite one because they took it back to the scary horror roots. And that was great, and it's still funny, and it's kind of weirdly disturbing at times, but it's fantastic. And if you haven't seen it, I really do recommend watching them. But yeah, here is my brother to talk about his favourite film, or film franchise, or horror, or whatever it was. I can't remember what he's done. So, roll the clip.
Shit! Okay, so Dan's asked me to talk about a horror I love, so I'm going to talk about It, and It Chapter 2, I suppose.
Ha! Joked you! I actually love It Chapter 2!
So it all started in summer 2017 when I read the It book. And then I watched the 1990 mini-series, but I gotta admit, after reading the book, it wasn't a letdown as such, but it was like... I don't know, it just didn't feel like the book. I mean, Tim Curry's Pennywise is obviously amazing, but incredible. But, like, for me, it's all about Bill. It's just gotta be Bill! But look at me, I'm getting ahead of myself already. So basically, I watched the 1990 miniseries, thought it was fine, but I couldn't wait for the movie. So either way, anyway, I sat down in the cinema, and the minute Georgie came on with his boat, this felt like the book for me. Straight away, it just... From the minute I saw Pennywise's eyes change colour when he turned, it was... I knew the book.
So sick.
Pennywise was absolutely incredible, perfectly cast, exactly how the Losers Club were perfectly cast as well. Everyone in this film for me was absolutely perfectly cast, absolutely amazing. And by the time it finished, I couldn't wait to see what they were going to do with Chapter 2.
Which I loved!
So yeah, what I really want to talk about is Chapter 2, because I feel like it really, really captures the essence of the book, because if you've read the book, you know that it's just absolutely... It's one of the craziest books I've ever read. You know exactly what Stephen King was on when he wrote this.
It's cocaine.
From the very opening with Adrian Mellon and the bullies and the beating and where he falls off the bridge and Pennywise takes him, I was hooked. I was in. I mean, obviously they couldn't keep everything in from the book. Bev, right? You know what I... But the things they did keep in, I absolutely loved. For example, the Paul Bunyan statue and Mrs. Kirsch.
Oh, Mrs. Kirsch!
And I also loved the things they added. For example, the House of Mirrors and the drain with all the hands grabbing Bill's arm. Awesome, loved it. One of my favourite parts was when, I love how nasty Pennywise is. He'll just come and literally just make fun of him, just take the piss out of all the Losers Club, and I love that. Like where he's hiding in the locker with Ben, and he makes fun of Richie for having his secret, and I just really loved that. That really gave it something I really wanted from it. And another thing I love is that you actually see him eat children in this film. Like, you full on see it, and the fact that he does get explained as like this alien that comes down and he feeds on fear, and he comes back every 27 years, and it all just gets wrapped up so nicely. And I so enjoyed it. I was in the cinema, I was the loudest one when I went to go see it. I've never reacted like that in the cinema before, but I was loud, let me tell you. So yeah, basically, in total, I absolutely love It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2. I think they capture the book perfectly. Just the sheer insanity and craziness of the book, they capture it amazingly well, I think. And I just wanted to talk about it. And Dan asked me to talk about a horror film I love, and that's it, really. I absolutely love it, and I've always loved like evil horror clowns, always have. I don't know why. That's it. Thank you, Father Dan, for this chance.
Lovely. There we go. There you have it. Like, It was really good. I really like It Chapter 2. I like them both, actually. That was another great horror franchise. I wouldn't say they're one of my favourites, personally, but that's what this is all about. We like talking about different opinions and different ideas and different things. Thanks for watching again. If you've come in and watched all this, I don't think this one's quite as long, but just chuck it on in the car, chuck it on in the background, and let's just talk about films like every now and again. I really want to make like a bit of a schedule to make these, but I'm quite busy, so I will hopefully make another one within the next few weeks. And thank you so much for watching or listening or doing whatever you did with it. Thank you so much.